Let's talk about the events of Wonder Woman Winter in my DC cinematic universe. This movie would be the first of Cassie Sandsmark's adventures as Wonder Woman. The movie starts off in Greenland, and we see a glacier crack and split apart, and then a massive clawed hand comes out of the ground, and crawling from the ice is a giant ice dragon. It summons a global ice storm, freezing literally the entire world. The Justice League come in to try and stop this thing, but no one is able to hurt it. This is when Cassie gets a disturbing prophecy from the Oracle of Themyscira. To bring an end to the Ice Queen's sunder will cost the life of the Child of Thunder. And so Cassie starts looking up how to slay dragons. Cassie seeks out help from the Shadow Pact, and she learns that the last dragon was killed over 1,200 years ago, and the specific magics required to kill a dragon have kind of just been lost to time. But Etrigan speaks up, because his grandfather Trigon was the one who made dragons. Dragons were made by Trigon to be the counter to very powerful heroes. They were monsters literally designed to be unstoppable. Raven is also there, confirming that she is not yet powerful enough and well enough trained with Trigon's immense powers to unmake his creations, so she can't really help. And they reach out to the Endless to ask, hey, can you guys help here? And the Endless are like, this isn't ours. This is a destruction thing. If anyone's going to do anything about it, it's going to be Raven, and she's not strong enough to do anything about it yet. The Shadow Pact get together and cast a spell to identify any living witnesses of dragon slayings, because they need to know how to kill this thing. And one of them is Etrigan. Jason Blood was alive and witnessed Sir Lancelot killing and being killed by a dragon. Besides Etrigan himself, this spell identifies 3 other living witnesses. 1 in the Amazon rainforest, 1 in China, and 1 in Norway. Cassie heads out to go find those witnesses, and Etrigan joins her. He feels dually obligated because it's Etrigan's grandfather who made these things, and Sir Jason Blood wants to go slay one sort of for Lancelot. But as they are heading out, Etrigan pulls Cassie to the side and says that he can tell that she's hiding something. He doesn't know what it is, but he will find out. We then cut to the Amazon rainforest, where we see Cassie team up with Yara Flor, because the witness of a dragon slaying in this is none other than Yara's own biological father, an Amazonian river god known as Boto. Long ago, Boto helped in the slaying of Umboy, a giant anaconda-like dragon that Trigon had made to kill Boyuna, the Amazonian goddess of the river, who herself could shapeshift into a massive anaconda. Boyuna was killed while slaying Umboy, and she left the defense of the river to Boto. And now, because of this global ice storm, the Amazon itself is completely frozen over. The Amazon River is frozen solid. And so Boto heads out with Cassie to slay this ice dragon. The team get to China, and for some reason the spell keeps bringing them to a statue instead of a person. The statue is of a beautiful woman wielding a spear and a shield, and her name is Shaoqing, aka the Green Snake. Legend says that she and her sister, the White Snake, died slaying a dragon known as Fahai together. But the team realized this is not a statue of this woman. This is that woman turned to stone by the dragon's magics. They unpetrify her, and we are introduced to Shaoqing. It turns out she was turned to stone by the dragon. That was one of the abilities the dragon had, and her sister died slaying it, and she was trapped in stone for now over 1,000 years. She is a woman torn from time. And so she vows to join them to slay this ice dragon to somehow sort of make up for her sister's death. And finally, the team get to Norway, where the signal is leading them to a remote cabin. And just outside the cabin, they find grave markers. Stopping to read them, all of the grave markers have the names of all of the Norse gods. And finally, the owner of this cabin returns home. His name is John Haraldsson. Long ago, he was a Viking prince who fought alongside the Norse gods. but Odin cursed him with immortality. He was there during Ragnarok, and he witnessed as Thor slew the dragon Jormungandr before dying himself. Cassie urges this man to join their quest, and he flat out refuses. He has been ruined by immortality. He has witnessed all of his friends and family die. He is truly alone. He does not care if this ice dragon ends up killing everybody, because the result would be the same: him alone. And as the team look at all of these graves, Cassie wonders if all of these are real graves, and the Norse gods were actually real superpowered beings like the Greek gods, then how come none of them got resurrected during the crisis by Darkseid? And John reveals they all did, but he put them back into the ground himself. Cassie smacks some sense into this guy, telling him that he has forgotten what it truly means to be a hero. It is their duty, with the powers that they have, to try and save as many people as possible. Just because he's immortal and has lost the will to keep going doesn't mean that he can discount these shorter lives that mortals have in comparison to him. And John feels thoroughly called out by this. So he dons his armor and he joins the team to go slay this dragon. The team make their way to Greenland, but at this point the ice storm is raging so badly that almost nothing can get through. And so to them, these superpowered beings, it is like a mortal trudging through a blizzard. As they keep going, they begin to encounter Drake spawn. You see, in this universe, dragons have the ability to corrupt other beings into horrible draconic slaves to their will. And so, the team is now fighting a whole bunch of kind of pseudo-dragon monsters. As the team push through the storm, they all start swapping stories to keep morale up. And they're talking about slaying dragons. And John Haraldson actually has another dragon slaying story up his belt. It turns out that far before Ragnarok, he actually helped slay another dragon. It was a flame dragon known as Dracul Karfang. And it was killed by an ice goddess known as Bera, which, ironically, also happened here in Greenland. And eventually, as they talk, they realize every single dragon they know of that was killed, the person who slayed it died too. And Etrigan realizes what's actually going on. Dragons are soulless entities created by Trigon to kill gods. And only those willing to sacrifice themselves were ever able to slay a dragon. This isn't an unstoppable beast. This is a magical contract. Trigon knew the only way to kill some of these gods, they wouldn't actually be killed by something he could make. He knew he had to get them to sacrifice themselves. By willingly entering into this contract, by willingly wanting to sacrifice themselves to save others, what was actually happening was they were exchanging their soul to the dragon, giving the dragon a soul, and therefore making it able to be killed. It was the perfect thing. This thing would either kill a shit ton of heroes or take out the strongest of all of them with itself. And so, as all of these surviving Dragon Slayer witnesses sit around realizing that it will cost a sacrifice to kill this dragon, Cassie starts to cry, and Etrigan realizes what she's been hiding. Cassie comes clean to everyone there that the prophecy that she received required her to die to slay this dragon. And everyone looks at her and they respect her sacrifice. The point of this movie would be Cassie coming to grips with the fact that as a hero, you need to be willing to sacrifice yourself to save others. And the team finally arrive at the lair of the ice dragon. And John Haraldson is floored because he recognizes this dragon. This isn't a new dragon that has popped up. This is Dracul Karfang reborn, but with ice powers? And the team realized what happened. When Bera died and her soul entered the dragon to kill it, the white light after Crisis that resurrected things around the world at random must have resurrected Bera's soul. But because it had been trapped inside this beast, she was resurrected as a dragon, and the feral, monstrous, demonic instincts inside the dragon that Trigon had put in there overwrote Bera's good nature and created the most powerful dragon the world had ever seen. Thus begins the final fight. The team all try to fight and slay this dragon. They're getting some good shots in, but Cassie, her heart just isn't in it yet. She's too scared. She doesn't want to die. She's too young to die, but she's trying to steel her resolve to stop this thing. And John Haraldson comes up to her and asks what's going on. And she just reveals all of this to him, that she is terrified of this thing, but she has to do it. To stop the Ice Queen's thunder requires the life of the Child of Thunder. And John freezes. And he looks at Cassie and he insists that she tell him that again. She recounts the prophecy word for word to him. And John Haraldson starts laughing. And he looks at Cassie and he lets her know that he has not been truthful with her. He was cursed by Odin to live forever. But that curse was because Odin was his father. He did witness Jormungandr be slain, but Thor didn't slay it. John Haraldson did. He isn't John Haraldson. He is Thor. He was unable to be killed and witnessed his best friend die in his stead. He was too cocky, too sure of his own immortality, but John was willing to sacrifice himself. So John is who slayed Jormungandr in Ragnarok. And Thor has had to live with this guilt of witnessing his best friend sacrifice himself to save him for almost 1,000 years. For these centuries, Thor has wanted nothing but to be able to die. And now he thinks that he can, because he is also a child of thunder. And he begs Cassie to let him make the sacrifice. She is young. She has her whole life ahead of her. She convinced him to try and save people again. She is a good person. She deserves to live her life. She was willing to make this sacrifice, but scared to do so. So don't. Let him do it. He is ready and willing right now. Please, let him do this. And Cassie agrees. John begins laughing a hearty belly laugh. This man is the happiest we have seen him in the whole movie. He grabs his armor in one hand and tears it off, and we get to see his true godly physique. He holds out his hand, and we cut back to Norway, where we see the gravestone that had been marked as Thor's as it explodes. We cut back to him, and flying through the air comes Mjolnir, his loyal hammer. He looks at Cassie and says that he is going to need her help because he has not used his powers in centuries. So he needs her to call all of the lightning she can and channel it into him. So he starts summoning lightning, but then Cassie basically just starts fucking Super Saiyan screaming. She steals herself and we see a global lightning storm. We cut all around the world as we see dozens of heroes reacting to the skies lighting up. Cassie channels all of the electricity she can into herself and then basically just lightning Kamehamehas that shit into Thor's back. And with a guttural scream, Thor launches Mjolnir at the dragon. It pierces the beast's heart and the dragon shatters into a rain of ice. Thor laughs. The work is done. He takes 9 steps and collapses onto the ground. The team gather round and confirm that he is dead, but we see on his face the biggest, most peaceful smile. All of the ice that this dragon had summoned around the world thaws and melts, and we cut back to Norway, where we see Cassie burying Thor beside his family. Cassie says some final words to him, thanking him for giving her her life back, and promising him from one god of thunder to another that she will carry on saving people in his name. And then the camera pans down, and we see, strapped to her waist, is Mjolnir, and it is tied to the lasso of truth. And from this point on in my DC Cinematic Universe, Cassie Sandsmark gets a fucking rope dart lasso of truth Mjolnir, baby!